on the consent agenda, followed by a briefing on the Anti-Hate and Bias Coalition and EOSJ midpoint report. It's going to be a short meeting today. Clerk, may you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Balducci? Councilmember Dembowski?
Here.
Councilmember Dunn?
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell?
Here.
Councilmember Perry?
Here.
Chair Sahalai?
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you. I would like to now move to approval of the minutes. May I please have a motion to approve the May 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes of the Law, Justice, Health, and Human Services Committee? Well, first I need the motion.
So moved.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of our May 2nd meeting, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, the meeting minutes are approved. We will now turn to public comment. If there's anyone participating via Zoom who would like to provide public comment, please use the raise hand function or press *9 if you're connected by phone. May I please ask the clerk if we have anyone in the chambers or on Zoom wishing to provide public comment?
Yes, we do, Chair Zahalai.
All right. Public comment must be related to items on today's meeting agenda and not be used for campaigning. It must also not include obscene speech. If a speaker fails to abide by these instructions, I'll have them removed. You will have 2 minutes to speak, and when you hear the timer go off, you can please wrap up your thoughts. We'll begin by calling on people who have signed up to speak in person. If you're providing comment remotely, please listen to the meeting on the Zoom call until you hear your name or last 4 digits. Clerk, please call on those who are with us in person today.
Thank you, Chair Zahalai. The first person is Alex Zimmerman. Alex Zimmerman, if you are able to speak, please go ahead and go to the podium. Thank you.
Microphone working?
We hear you, Alex.
No, microphone working?
Yes, we hear you.
Thank you very much. The Heil, my dirty Nazi pig, is exactly who you are. I want to speak about, my name Alex Zimmerman, and I live in Bellevue for 35 plus years. Yeah, I want to speak about agenda number 6, hate and bias. Consul, you surprise me totally. You know what this means? What is you doing right now? You support Amazon management in Bellevue right now? You support Amazon management? So Amazon will become in Bellevue and bring 30,000 people who destroy people, and 100,000 will be moved out because they cannot afford life in Bellevue. You support Amazon management, a real estate owner in Bellevue. Why are you doing this? You acting like a bandito. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what is you doing. Look what's happening in Seattle with Amazon. All black out, all minority out, all poor people out. So right now you support somebody in Bellevue. Why reason this? I call this more money. More money. They want to make more money. You support them. Yes, how is this possible? Is this what is we elect you 4 years ago? So you support Amazonian millionaires who want to make more and more money from the people and bring somebody from jungle, 30,000 in Bellevue. This will destroy everybody in King County. You know what this means? Include Seattle too. What is you doing this, Consul, huh? Who are you? You know what this means? You look to me like a pure Nazi bandito. You know what this means? You're supposed to be for the people, no against these people. Stand up, America. This is exactly what is we need doing, and bring America great again.
Thank you. The next person is Marguerite Richard.
Good day. My name is Marguerite Richard,
And it's interesting that you have something on the agenda talking about anti-hate, and you guys be down here hating against folk every day. Don't lie. That's why I keep coming. Don't sit up here and regulate time like this, and you know what's happening out on the streets. My condolences to the shooting in Skyway, which was my godmother's nephew. He's in Harborview, I believe, recovering. I got to check in. But I'm just saying to myself, equity, and the woman up there in Olympia, she looked just like me, and the governor fired her. Either she was going to be fired or retire. So is there a such thing as equity and inclusion? Don't lie. That's why we got a messed up society right now, because you keep lying to the people. And you know what? You're going to pay for every lie that you've given coming down here telling people what to say, and we're supposed to have free speech, huh? Since when did you become an orator of such things, huh? I'm beginning to wonder about you folk down here, not as if I didn't know before Alex said anything, because I'm an indigenous black female. And how could we live on the face of this earth and come through slavery, Jim Crow, now they're calling it new Jim Crow, Miss Sally Walker sitting in a saucer. She don't need to rise, just stay right down on the ground wiping your weeping eyes, huh? And I'm for real with this, and I'm making good sense, okay? Because you know what? All we got is a minute with 60 seconds in it, and this little old thing is still ticking, getting ready to go off. But you people wise up around here. These people are lying to you, and every lie they're going to get caught in. It's just a matter of time. You heard it from me.
Thank you. Chair Zahalai, I'm going to begin calling on people in Zoom.
Great. Thank you, Gabby.
The first person is Bree Nicolello. Please unmute yourself. You would wish to speak.
Thank you, Chair Zahalai and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in front of you today. My name is Bree Nicolello, and I am the Community Development and Special Projects Director for African Community Housing and Development. ACHD provides housing and social services, education, workforce development, and community development to the African diaspora throughout Seattle and King County. I'm here today on behalf of our executive leadership, Hamdi Abdul and Bilan Eden, as well as our absolutely fabulous team. We wanted to share that we are so pleased to see the update that is being provided today by the Stop Hate Hotline work group. The potential approach presented today appears to be a centralized and coordinated approach that is inclusive of all communities. Considering today's times, including the comments that we heard earlier, this work is essential and must be continued, and we are looking forward to seeing this critical tool be implemented. We appreciate your advocacy and support of our community, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you. I believe that is all the people that have signed up to speak online.
Great. Thank you so much. Seeing no further requests, we will close public comment. The first item today is the consent agenda, which includes one motion to confirm the appointment of Celia Jurdy to the Communities of Opportunity Best Starts for Kids Levy Advisory Board. I would ask for a motion to move the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chair. So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor, actually, we need a roll call on this one. Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Balducci? Councilmember Balducci? Councilmember Dembowski?
Aye.
Councilmember Dunn? Thank you. Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Chair Zahalai?
Aye.
The vote is 6 ayes, no noes, and no excuse.
By your vote, proposed motion 2023-0123 is approved with a due pass recommendation and will be sent to the June 20th, 2023 full council meeting. And if there are no objections, it'll be placed on consent. Our next item is a briefing to provide a midpoint report from the Anti-Hate and Bias Coalition and the Office of Equity and Social Justice. This briefing is in response to Section K of Motion 16218, which requested an update by May 2nd of this year on the progress of the work group and potential recommendations to expand a community-based Stop Hate hotline for reporting hate crimes and hate incidents. The motion also requires the executive to provide a plan and public awareness campaign by September 15th, 2023 to establish a hate crime reporting system. Executive staff indicated they anticipate the report will be transmitted by the deadline. Joining us to lead the briefing are Sinait Naguse, Special Assistant to the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer Phyllis Sutton, Project Manager of the Anti-Hate and Bias Coalition, and Devontae Daniels, Community Engagement Program Manager in OESJ. I'll now turn it over to our presenters. Please proceed whenever you're ready, Sinait.
Thank you so much, Chair Zahalai. Right, just pulling up my screen. Thank you. Are you all able to see my screen? Wonderful.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Zahalai and council members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. For the record, my name is Sinait Naguse and my pronouns are she and her. I am here representing the Office of Equity, Racial and Social Justice and the Stop Hate Hotline work group. And I'm accompanied, as Chair Zahalai said, by my incredible colleagues, Devontae Daniels and Phyllis Sutton. The purpose of today is to provide you all with an update on the Stop Hate Hotline work group efforts and to also share preliminary recommendations from the Stop Hate Hotline work group as outlined in Motion 12618. It's important to note that all the items shared in this presentation are preliminary and still under consideration by the designated Stop Hate Hotline work group members. And I just want to express our gratitude on behalf of the work group on the Council's direction to provide a midway point update. As outlined in the motion, the work group consists of representatives from the following organizations, including the King County Coalition Against Hate and Bias. We have 3 organization representatives. We also have representation from the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, the King County Sheriff's Office, as well as the Department of Community and Human Services, King County Executive's Office, and Executive's Office of Equity, Racial, and Social Justice. Before we go into the presentation, I wanted to provide you all with a little distinction between a bias incident and a hate crime. As you see here, a bias incident refers to any hostile expression that may be motivated by another person's race, color, disability, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. These bias incidents can be verbal, physical, or visual. In accordance with Washington state law, a hate crime offense occurs when an individual maliciously and intentionally commits specific acts based on their perception of a victim's identity. And those identities are here on the screen as you can read them for yourself. The acts that are listed here would constitute a hate crime. So that include assaulting a victim or another person, causing physical damage to the destruction of property of a victim or another person, or causing a threat to a person or a group, thereby causing reasonable fear of harm to individuals or property. A little bit of background information, just very high level, starting back in 2020. That is when the King County Coalition Against Hate and Bias was created. They were formed to respond directly to the hate and bias incidents and crimes. There was a huge surge, as we know, against Asian American and Pacific Islander communities associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. In September 2022, you all, the King County Council, unanimously approved legislation related to the establishment of the new community-based Stop Hate Hotline and online portal, which is why we're here today. Since then, the Office of Equity and Racial and Social Justice has convened a Stop Hate Hotline work group to provide those potential recommendations. for the hotline and online portal and public awareness campaign. With the lifting of the COVID-19 emergency order by the Biden administration in May, the coalition has shifted its focus to provide greater outreach to communities impacted by hate and bias incidents beyond the context of the pandemic. So they'll continue to address the challenges of hate and bias incidents in the community, just really working to expand their focus. A little bit about the Coalition Against Hate and Bias. They are made up of community-based organizations and really prioritize relationship building, educational, and providing that intentional and language outreach to communities experiencing targeted hate and bias incidents, and also those communities that are less likely to report to law enforcement. They've done this since 2020 by administering Survey 123 to collect those reports on hate and bias incidents, really have been working to raise awareness in communities and providing training on hate and bias, and also providing that case management and the follow-up, which includes directing individuals to those support services, including mental health services and legal support. As we look ahead and move beyond the context of the emergency that led to the creation of the coalition, it has become clear that within the Stop Hate Hotline work group that it is crucial not only to collect data, but also to design a hotline that remains community-driven and prioritizes the needs of victims. This is a high-level data snapshot of data that was collected by the coalition since 2020. So as you see here, since 2020, the coalition has documented 625 hate and bias incidents, with 59% reporting and identifying as Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander. Additionally, 60% of those individuals identified as women. And these incidents were most likely to occur at a private business or workplace or on the street and sidewalk. 91% of respondents felt that they were targeted because of their race or ethnicity. And notably, 85% of individuals who filed reports did not contact law enforcement. This alarming statistic is congruent with national trends and also underscores the significant underreporting of hate crimes, which can be attributed to a range of factors. Based on these findings, the Stop Hate Hotline work group has been exploring various approaches which could address the reporting barriers, foster trust, and ensure that victims receive the necessary support. We also wanted to provide you all with data from the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Since 2018, the Prosecuting Attorney's Office has documented a total of 279 hate crimes. It's important to note that this represents the number of hate crimes that have officially been filed with law enforcement. So this does not encompass those referred cases or those bias incidents. And this is why it was important to distinguish the difference between a bias incident and a hate crime, because some of these incidents that don't arise or meet the threshold of a hate crime do not get that follow-up or are not documented with the prosecuting attorneys and sheriff's office. The prosecuting attorney's office data aligns with national trends, indicating that the majority of hate crimes, comprising of 58%, are motivated by race or ethnicity. Specifically, 51% of the anti-race and hate crimes target the Black community. And then the second most targeted group is the anti-LGBTQ group, comprising of 36% of those cases that are reported. It's also important to keep in mind that the hate crimes categories are multi-select. So that means that you're able to report more than one hate or bias can be involved in one given incident. And so as a result, the numbers and percentages that you see here do exceed 100%. The Stop Hate Hotline work group's potential recommendations align with the goals that have been set out in Motion 12618. These goals include establishing a reporting mechanism for victims to reach out to non-law enforcement community-based service providers. It also includes providing greater access and services for the victim. also includes raising that public awareness of the nature of bias and hate crimes and incidents, where they occur and how to report them, and of course, combat them as well. And of course, to collect and report countywide data on those hate crimes and incidents. By meeting these objectives, the Stop Hate Hotline aims to create a centralized hub for reliable and accessible community data and resources that enable policymakers to make well-informed decisions in effectively addressing hate and bias incidents. The Stop Hate Hotline workgroup is also discussing these minimum service requirements outlined in Motion 12618. As you all see them here, I will speak to these throughout the presentation. And of course, there will be more details outlined in the final report that is due in September. So this, what you see here is the potential hotline model the workgroup is considering. It's a comprehensive model with 3 key components. The first, of course, entails the centralized database, which would include multilingual survey reporting tool that is accessible to the public via a variety of formats. So this is really the online survey, the phone hotline, as well as other modalities to be able to report the actual incident or crime. The second component includes a fully funded hotline program. And so this would mean having staff to do the necessary follow-up, case management, training, and coordination with community, as well as the third component you see here is some sort of permanent, independent, and resourced community coalition or commission to strengthen the county's efforts. This preferred model was inspired by the successful implementations in California and Oregon's Department of Justice's program. The details I outlined in the presentation today represent the Stop Hate Hotline's workgroup proposed model that's under consideration. This is sort of the gold standard that the hotline workgroup aims to achieve. There are alternative models in consideration, under consideration by the workgroup that meet the minimum service requirements, but I will not be presenting on those today. Those details around what that would entail, along with the associated cost and alternatives, will be provided in the September report. So again, today I'm just really going to focus on sort of that gold standard based on Oregon and California's program. So the displayed categories here represent potential motivations to be used for reporting hate incidents and crimes. This list is not exhaustive. The intent of this is really to reach as many communities as possible and to capture diversity and intersection of identities. Building on that, this slide shows a chart and includes those categories that were mentioned on the previous slide, along with their corresponding bias motivations. You'll see that the bias motivations include very detailed identity-specific information. This table was adapted from the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Criminal Justice Information Services Division Uniform Crime Reporting Program. The Stop Hate Hotline Workgroup's goal is to gather the most comprehensive and inclusive data as possible so that we're able to reach as many individuals in King County. By capturing this level of detail, the county can gain a deeper understanding of the complexities and intersections of bias and hate crimes, ensuring that our data accurately reflects the nature of these incidents in our community. And finally, I want to note that this list is currently under review by the State Stop Hate Hotline Workgroup, and additional bias motivation categories may be considered or modified. So this is speaking again to potential service hours for the hotline and web portal. These are still under consideration and speak to some minimum service requirements. This is currently the preferred pathway, which includes extending into evening hours until 8 p.m. and having at least one weekend day available to call in and make those, report those incidents. And of course, ensuring that we have an online reporting tool that's available and accessible to individuals 24 hours a day. So that's just via the web. These potential recommendations are again, based on research that's conducted on programs in Oregon and California, as well as our own learnings from the COVID-19 hotline that the county had. Again, this is the gold standard. There are alternative models that meet the minimum service requirements that include reduced hours and alternative ways of meeting the needs of our community, but this is sort of the pathway that the work group felt was most accessible to communities. Building on that, these are additional strategies that the work group has identified for the county to maximize its reach and ensure greatest amount of accessibility. These strategies include leveraging existing language contracts at the county, by working to ensure that we have over-the-phone interpretation at all times in as many languages as possible. Additionally, implementing a phone tree system so that individuals can call and leave voicemails in their preferred language and to be connected with an interpreter or a multilingual employee to be serviced. Additionally, at a minimum, the work group has requested that we translate survey and supporting materials in the county's top 10 most prevalent languages. And also something that is new that has come up from the state of Oregon is that they're exploring a chat feature. This chat feature is to increase access for youth so that they are not underreporting their crimes and incidents. And so that's just to ensure greater accessibility and something that was of interest to the Stop Hate Hotline work group and is currently being explored and considered. The other items that you see here are pertaining to population-specific outreach, just ensuring that we are being very intentional in our communications, ensuring that we are not only providing multilingual access, but disability access as well. So that means providing information in large print and having accessible web formats. And to continuing to have contracts and work with our community and faith-based organizations to provide that population-specific outreach for the public awareness campaign. This also includes doing targeted social media ads, not just in language, but also to ensure that we're reaching folks all across King County and doing ad buys directly with those who serve those population-specific communities. So that's ethnic and community media. So this slide speaks to that third component of the model centered around the community structure. This is a model that was inspired by our King County's Coalition Against Hate and Bias, and also the California's Commission on the State of Hate. So with that, the work group is actively considering the establishment of a permanent and resourced county commission comprised of community leaders and organizations. Potential duties under consideration include publishing a comprehensive report, counting hate activity, and they would be responsible potentially for making recommendations to the county for improving our services and systems. They would also potentially be responsible for hosting community forums and training sessions, and of course, serving as those credible messengers, supporting and amplifying messages and resources that the county has to support victims of hate, crime, and incidents. To support these efforts, the work group is exploring and has under consideration the potential recommendation around a budget allocation of $100,000, and that is being proposed for community outreach, ongoing training, and workshops. I do want to note that this is still under consideration by the Stop Hate Hotline work group and will also involve collaboration with the Coalition Hate and Bias to ensure strategic alignment, and so more information will be included in the final report due in September. This slide speaks to potential staffing needs, and this is again inspired by Oregon's approach. Oregon's Hotline program operates with a $2 million budget, which includes 5 full-time equivalent staff. For reference, their population that they're serving is roughly double the size of the county. What you see here is the proposed gold standard staffing model, which includes a program manager and 3 hate hotline coordinators, and at least 1 sheriff's office liaison. The roles and responsibilities of each position will be detailed in the final report. But right now, what you all see here is that we would potentially have a program manager that would be responsible for the strategic alignment among the Office of Equity, Racial, and Social Justice, the Prosecuting Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, and of course, community. They would also provide oversight and support to the hotline program and identify grant opportunities for the county and the community. The hotline coordinator role is envisioned to operate the hotline. It is also envisioned by the hotline work group that these individuals would be multilingual and of course trauma-informed, trained in crisis intervention, and provide the bias response and advocacy. They would also provide ongoing case management, including providing know your rights information, and provide that systems navigation to victims and families. It's important to note that we learned from the Oregon model the importance of rotating staff. And so the hotline coordinators, advocates in Oregon only serve on the hotline 2 days a week. And this is very intentional. The rest of their time is spent doing that outreach, training, and case management and follow up. This has proven to be a successful model and really aims to prevent burnout and maximize that outreach impact and continue to build and foster trust in community. Here, you will see some systems and approaches to engage victims with law enforcement agencies in the event of a crime. So the county currently employs 2 approaches to address hate and crime incidents. The first is by assigning a hate crime advocate to victims who report their cases to law enforcement. And again, this is specific for hate crimes, not incidents. This ensures that victims do receive dedicated support from the time they report their crime all the way through their case. The second, of course, as we've been sharing throughout, is the Coalition Against Hate and Bias partners, as they are administering surveys that collect reports both on hate and bias incidents and crimes. Under consideration, we have some approaches that you see here in the orange box. The first is the Stop Hate Hotline coordinators. They would be proposed to facilitate a connection with the Sheriff's Department if the victim desires it. And similarly, we would hope that if there is a case where an individual does go to law enforcement and it does not meet that threshold of a crime, that officers would direct individuals to the hotline. Again, the hope is that through this model or the potential or proposed model, that we would be building and fostering trust in our communities and ensuring that they know their pathway as to how to report a crime. The second model that's currently under exploration is having officer liaisons within the King County Sheriff's Office. And their role would really to be build trust within their respective communities and offer education and training to other officers. This is a model that we're currently exploring. The City of Seattle has an officer who serves the LGBTQIA community as their liaison and is an officer and identifies and is reflective of that community as well. And so we understand the importance of representation and fostering those relationships, which is why that is one of the potential recommendations under consideration. And finally, having a proposed community commission structure to, again, provide the county with recommendations on how to improve our services and systems, as well as they would serve as a bridge to escalate any barriers or challenges experienced by the community. As it pertains to the hotline work groups and data recording procedures and reporting requirements, the work group has vocalized that it's very important that we have a hotline that is accessible, provides trauma-informed care, remains victim-centered, and promotes the safety and cultural humility of individuals, that we continue to have and take data that is 100% confidential and anonymous, though individuals can voluntarily provide their contact information if they want that follow-up. The data collection and reporting systems will, of course, meet federal standards. This was to ensure consistency, but also so that we remain competitive and eligible for federal grants. So we will also include additional details in the report in September on that. And also really important that we centralize data outside of law enforcement. And so it's being proposed in the Office of Equity and Racial and Social Justice. This data would be comprehensive and accessible to both community and across the county so that decision makers are able to make the most informed decisions using that reliable community data. The hotline coordinator positions that you all saw being proposed and are under consideration by the work group would, of course, provide information on how to report the crimes to appropriate law enforcement if the individual victim desires it. And as we know, victims can choose to report to multiple entities. So if at first they feel comfortable going to the hotline and then they so choose to report to law enforcement, that is something that the hotline coordinator could facilitate. Okay. And finally, these are estimated projected costs. We really leaned on our partners in Oregon to understand their budget. As you see here, the projected costs and estimate for the gold standard model includes an estimated startup cost of $1.6 million. These certain budget items that you see here that are bold and in orange are one-time costs, while the others would be ongoing costs, recurring costs. With the one-time costs removed, the recurring costs would be closer to about $1 million annually. Looking at Oregon's experience, their initial budget was very modest. They started with a budget of $43,000. I do want to note that with that smaller budget, most of their calls did go to voicemail and they were overburdened. Later, they were able to secure a grant that accounted for 84% of their program spending. However, currently their program relies on grants for 10% of their funding. And the rest of that comes from their general fund. This highlights the potential for leveraging external funding sources to enhance the resources available for the proposed Stop Hate Hotline program. I also want to note that, again, the Stop Hate Hotline work group is considering alternative models as well that are a little more cost effective maybe, but do have differences in those resource requirements. They still meet the minimum service requirements as outlined in Motion 12618, but they are not as of a comprehensive approach as the one that we're sharing with you all today. And so with that, we will continue to convene the work group through September. And we'll plan on finalizing a plan to establish a non-law enforcement community-based countywide hotline, web portal, incident reporting requirements, and awareness campaign. Again, this will include several different options for the council's consideration. And with that, just want to thank you all for the opportunity to provide this midpoint update. If you have any further questions or need additional information, we are at your service. Thank you.
Thank you so much tonight. That was an excellent presentation. Do any of your other guests have anything they would like to share? Or I don't see them on anymore. Okay.
Thank you. My colleague covered everything. I have no comments.
Thank you so much.
Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Devontae. Thank you all so much. That was a great presentation. Do my colleagues have any questions for the presenters?
Chair
Councilmember
Zahalai.
Perry.
Thank you, Chair Zahalai. Thank you for this presentation, a really thorough presentation, and great to see the examples of where it's working very well and why it's the gold standard. I'd love to see more about that. I do have a question about the categorizing of the bias and the assault crimes. Does that refer to verbal assault as well as physical assault?
Thank you, Council Member. Are you referring to the potential motivation categories?
Yes, the tracking and potential motivation categories. I'm concerned about the increasing verbal assault. No, that is also a crime depending on the circumstance, and it adds to a really important precedent. So just checking on that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so this would include verbal, physical, or visual verbal assault. So, and that would fall under the bias incident category. The intent of the hotline work group is to have and to collect reports both on bias incidents and crimes.
So the verbal assault is within the bias, but the assault statistics are specifically physical assault.
Yeah, the hate, in order to be constituted as a hate crime, an assault would need to occur. And I think if you want more information on that, we can get you more information, but that is sort of out of my realm. That's more within the prosecuting attorney's office and legal law enforcement. So
thank you very much.
Thank you. Colleagues, any more? Councilmember Dembowski.
Thank you, Chair Zahalai, and thank you for the excellent presentation. I'm wondering a little bit about the work group's discussions on how this would be if they are talking about this countywide. I see the proposal to connect with our sheriff's office, which of course provides the law enforcement services for the 250,000 unincorporated residents and maybe about 10 of our incorporated cities. But probably the majority of the population lives in an area covered by folks not in the sheriff's office. And I know I'm only talking about cases where you'd involve the sheriff's office, which isn't everything, obviously. I'm wondering, was the idea of coordinating with Seattle, Bellevue, Kent, Renton, Federal Way, Auburn, Lake Forest Park, Bothell, Kirkland, folks that have their own police force outside of the sheriff's office, how would we make sure that somebody who wants this help and calls for help, but let's say lives in Kirkland, would get the services they need where a law enforcement response is appropriate?
Thank you, Council Member. That's a really great question. We can include more information in our report about that. Oregon's Department of Justice program does coordinate across the state. So they work with several hundred different law enforcement agencies. And so we do still have a lot to learn and understand how a potential model that reaches and extends beyond unincorporated King County and those that the King County Sheriff's Office contracts with, how that could be applied in our case. So we'll definitely do some more research in the upcoming months and speak to that in our report. Thank you.
Super. Yeah, I think one of the principles in this work, which is excellent in my view, is that it be countywide, because most folks don't, if they're looking for help, don't want to navigate a bunch of barriers on, okay, well, I live in this city, can I use the county line or not? And even if they can use it, hopefully our response can be seamless to get them the care and help that they need across jurisdictional boundaries. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any more questions? All right. Thank you so much for that presentation tonight. I know that we eagerly look forward to the next steps coming in September, and we appreciate today's update. All right. I think that's it for today. Our next regularly scheduled meeting lands on the 4th of July, so that meeting will be canceled. We're instead going to be holding a special meeting of this committee on July 27th. Same time, same place, no other business before us. This meeting of the Law, Justice, Health, and Human Services Committee is now adjourned. Thank you so much.